Greetings all who roam this world, and welcome to this episode of Side Quest, a Quest Bros podcast. This episode is a little bit different than normal. Quest Bros had such a great conversation reflecting on all of our Improv D&D performances in 2024 that we decided to split it into two parts. So, we hope you enjoy our Improv D&D 2024 reflection.
Let's try and keep this one real quick. Just kind of talking about the conventions, atmosphere, like how would you guys explain the atmospheres as quickly as possible, from Anime Milwaukee, C2E2, ASEN, Gen Con, Fan Expo? I'll at least start with Matt and Michael between Fan Expo and Anime Milwaukee, because you have a anime convention and a
it's not even a comic
culture.
Yeah, it's a more general fandom convention.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, you definitely get some very different demographics despite it all.
I'd say they're actually pretty similar. They're not one-to-one, but they are largely overlapping demographics.
Mm-hmm. There is some overlap for sure, but I can honestly say that anime fans, because they're like at the anime conventions, you're going there because you like anime, and the group is a little bit more distinct in that regard.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but whenever we go to an anime convention, the anime fans are always really goddamn eager.
Yeah.
They're probably the most eager demographic that we do shows for.
I think it could, as the stereotype is that like the anime fans don't get out much, but when they do get out into the conventions like this is where they thrive.
Yeah.
So now it's like you give you give a little kid a bunch of pixie sticks and a bunch of soda.
Cocaine.
And then you let him loose on a playground, and he's gonna have a time of his life.
Well, I did mention the cocaine earlier.
That's exactly
what you give a 5-year-old kid crack cocaine. They're gonna go nuts.
These anime kids are now just like let go into this playground, especially Anime Milwaukee, which is one of the only conventions that have stuff until like 4 a.m. All these other conventions are done at like 8.
Let's go.
Which is poor marketing.
But then so like they've got the whole weekend and so much to do and so much they want to do and interact with and talk to and memories they want to create.
There's so much to do, so much to see.
Yeah, and then don't get me wrong, all the other ones like Fan Expo, C2E2, like they're also good and they're also great, but they don't have that same eagerness.
Yeah.
And that's what I would agree that was the difference, is that the comic and the fan conventions, they're excited still. They're there. They want a good show. Mm-hmm. The anime central, anime magic, they want to be part of a great show.
Yes.
Yeah, and that is very, very true.
They want their top 10 anime moments.
Yeah.
They want to be in those moments.
Yes.
Yeah, and then,
they all have main character energy.
Yeah, main character.
And they want to try and live it out right now.
And, I mean, and they're going to have to prove us wrong, but it's like, funny enough, it's like anime, fan, comic, game conventions. It's like you go from interactive and also just like how well it runs and energy and like investment. You go from low, which are the people going to gaming conventions, which is wild to me. Then you have your comic conventions that, they're like middle of the road. Half are eager, half are not, kind of. You have your fan expos and your fan conventions where you get that kind of mixing pot of like all of the people. Those that are super eager, those that are eager, those that are like middle of the road, those that are not interested in participating or playing anything. And then anime conventions, it's like everyone wants to be on the stage. Everyone wants to be a part of the show. Everyone wants to have a great time. And it's just wild because like you'd think that should have been flipped.
I think it's because there's a major overlap with theater kids and anime
Probably,
fans.
honestly.
Anime is very, very flashy and over the top and very, kind of in your face, generally speaking. But I find that, tabletop anything tends to be more rules oriented, a bit rigid and structured,
and I think that's why Gen Con struggled a bit.
And so, like, if you're the kind of person that does a lot of tabletop stuff, you're generally more along that line of patience and disposition, and maybe some reservation. It's just a very that's kind of where the subtle difference kind of comes from, to my mind.
Yeah, but then it's like so many tabletop games, tabletop RPGs, like you couldn't throw a dart at a wall full of them and find one that doesn't take creativity, imagination, improvisation.
Oh, sure, but they're used to the rules of the game.
Yeah, there's still some form of structure behind that there's a bowl that all of that is set in, and we've now broken that bowl.
Right,
and it's now this whole soup is now in a shot glass.
They have to be detrained. They have to be detrained on playing a role-playing game.
That's why we have on the poster no rules, no character sheet, no experience.
Do whatever you want.
Here's the wild part. That's not true. They can come up and be totally invested in D&D and just say things entertainingly that is D&D related, and at Gen Con,
I'm not saying that they can't.
We very much did. I don't think they understand, like, when we're like, no, Dan's been DMing for 10 years, he's been playing the game for 15, 16 years. That's not a joke. I know. There was one guy in the crowd that I was like, oh, no,
yeah,
that's from Unearthed Arcana, which is an expansion of first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And he was like, oh, you're right.
No, and we're not saying that you're wrong with that. What we're saying though is like the audience, like the Gen Con audience, is so used to. Or no, they're going there and they're playing all these games that have that structure. So now we've thrown them in this environment where that structure's gone.
I'm just saying, like, we weren't completely structureless. I can't imagine D&D players getting thrown into improv D&D and not.
No, but we were, I think, the least structured thing that they probably were a part of that weekend.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see that.
Well, okay, when you play D&D,
wild.
you have expectations on how it gets played out. When you hear an improv show, you have expectations on how things will play out. So I think, generally speaking, that people weren't quite sure what to make of the show, and then it had to wait until basically Anthony was done for them to really click with the idea of what the hell the show is actually about.
And maybe that's something we should change, is that maybe I should explain those rules, and I always wait until everyone's on the stage and then tell them what the rules are, how to play the game. Maybe I should do that before people get on stage, so we
could at least try it.
Yeah. So then they know, oh, okay, when I get, this is what I'm going to be doing when I'm on stage. Do I want to go on stage and be a part of that?
Right.
Yeah. All right. So that's good. So the last thing I kind of want to tell everyone, is the story of improv D&D and how we got to where it is. Again, we'll try and keep this fairly short, and then we're getting to the end of the podcast. But I think it'll be a nice heartfelt story. We stole this idea.
Yeah.
The most honest just admission of
the
reality.
Oversimplification of it is that this is not our original idea and that we took it. But Jared, you explain it better.
So basically, we went to
Well, no, so like, what is the way that you, when I say we stole it, how do you flavor that instead?
We improved upon it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I feel like we took aspects from the original, which was, I feel like it's very ironic how we came about this.
It was called Freestyle D&D.
It was Freestyle D&D.
In a room that fit maybe 30 people.
Yeah. It was very small. Half of them were drunk.
Yep.
In fact, all of the people up there were drunk.
Except Dan and I.
Except for Dan and Anthony.
I was trying to get there. They couldn't. They didn't have enough alcohol.
There was not enough booze in the room. But what I find hilarious is D&D, which is known for its rules, they took that concept and were just like, fuck it. And just turned it on its head, made it the opposite. Meanwhile, with the Penguin Knife Fight, they took improv and made it rigid and rule-based, which is very ironic. And we were like, what if we just took those two and put them together?
Because I went back on my phone once, and I was looking, and I had video of the Penguin. You were up on stage at Penguin Knife Fight.
Yes, I was terrible.
And when Dan and I were up on stage on Freestyle D&D, and I was watching them, and I was like, wow, these suck.
Yeah.
So it's just so interesting. And it's maybe someone can tell me, but like, what was it really that like after we saw Freestyle that we were just like, we could do that but better? Was it that simple? And then we just did it?
I think it was, if they're drunk, we could do this sober and probably make it better.
It was definitely something where we were like,
because we enjoyed being on stage.
Yeah, I enjoyed the experience and I enjoyed it. I don't exactly know how we came about thinking we could improve upon it by structuring it a little bit more, and then bringing upon the improv aspect into it more, because it felt like the problem that you start to run into is that it almost felt like, because that guy that did it,
it was just one dude.
It was one dude, first off, and it felt like he had a story that he wanted us to go through quickly. Kind of like how Rough Magic does their one-shots. So it very much felt like
he was trying to run a one-shot.
He was trying to run a one-shot, but broken down into its simplest form, and then we really ripped it off the rails. Because I remember him coming up and he was like, that's not at all what I expected it to be. That's not at all what he imagined it was going to be at all.
And that's where we took it to that step. It's like, don't have expectations.
And I was like, well, that went great.
Yeah.
I'm like, why not market that aspect of it? So I think very much he wanted a breakdown subversion of a one-shot D&D game.
Right.
Where we could play a one-shot D&D game, but because you had me and 3 drunk girls on the stage, you weren't getting on a serious game. That's just the aspect. You weren't getting something serious.
Right.
So we went off the frickin' rails, and he had to work with us on that, because it was a show and he had to make it entertaining. So I think once that happened, and he came up and he was like, "That's not at all what I was expecting this to be." Me and Anthony were like,
"Well, it was great.
I think we should push for that. I think that is like the idea." It was like his happy little accident was something like, he was like, no, that's not what I had in mind. And then immediately we were like,
yeah, but it's better.
Yeah, but I think that's better.
And so then that happened in...
And so we took the happy accident and we made it our own.
I think he came into that expecting to have some semblance of control over the story and how it was going to flow.
No, but honestly, I have no idea. The dude was also drunk.
That too. But with us, we know full well that we're going to relinquish control after like the first or second roll.
Yeah.
Well, and it helps too that there's multiple of us helping make this production a thing.
It was just him.
One dude, and he also might have just been like, for all we know, he could have been a part of the staff at the convention. They just had a time slot in a room they wanted filled, and he could have just been like, "Fuck, give me a D20, I'm gonna make something happen."
And at the very least, it was a guy who was just doing it for fun.
And whoever he was, I thank him for that. Because of that, we have this now amazing.
If you're watching this,
experience.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that, I think, was 2018, the summer of 2018. Then we were like, all right, let's do that. So we brainstormed it and workshopped it for a couple months. Anime Milwaukee comes February. That would have been summer 2019.
So it had been 2020.
February
2020. We do our first improv D&D show.
One of the best panels.
The lights kept turning on and off, and that
Yes.
That performance is now on YouTube. So if you're watching those who are watching, go check it out. It's awful. It's terrible.
It was
not
terrible.
But it's great to see how far we've come.
But it's good as a historical note.
That became our start as being the banes of fire marshals everywhere.
Here's the thing, though.
We'll continue to do so.
Yeah. It was one of the worst shows we've ever done because of the technical issues. It was still one of the better shows at Amkey in terms of traction, because ever since then, we've never failed to interact with Amkey. Mm-hmm. We've never failed to get a hold of them, to let them down to anything. Mm-hmm. They've reached out to us.
It's only gotten better.
It's only gotten better from there.
That was the foot in the door.
Hell, they even asked us to
be a part of the opening ceremony.
You know, the thing that nobody goes to in conventions.
That's not true. There was tons of people there.
Yeah,
it was wild.
I have to raise you that the opening ceremony does have a reasonable.
The closing ceremonies, there's not many people.
No, that's it.
I would have to say their opening ceremony is probably the second most gone to event they have.
At the very least, at Amkey,
at Amkey, because they have the cosplay chess, which is
okay,
and they have the masquerade.
The number one thing was the dancing that I thought, the masquerade.
See, I thought you were gonna say
and that was the masquerade. The masquerade's the cosplay contest,
and we're number 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
honestly though, yeah, like it probably could be in the top 5.
I was gonna say the rave is probably
the rave's
the
pretty
most
up there.
most interactive event.
But
the most interactive, hands down. 100%.
the most bumpy.
So now going back to the story though, did you notice something about the time of when our first panel happened?
Ooh, COVID.
February 2020.
Yeah, no lie.
One month, maybe even less, before the world shut down.
Rough. Worst
But-
timing in the world.
Because now we've got this high and we're like, wow, that went great. Yeah, it was.
Let's do
In
it
that
again.
moment, it was great.
And then
We're
everything
like, we
came
could
to
do
a
it.
halt.
Everything stopped.
Everything
if we would have been
changed.
able to do what we are doing
Fire
now
Nation
back in
attack.
2020 and COVID never happened,
We'd be
we-
further along.
we
now.
would
Well, no, but
we-
maybe not because of COVID, it gave us time to really like hunker down, think about it, reflect on it, and just grind it to get it even better for the
Well,
moment.
It's like when
Nah, I'm that guy.
no, it's sort of like when you're doing weight training. Like you want to have that brevity space so that your muscles can cope and relax, and then.
I
you
mean,
go through
maybe.
again.
Well, okay, here's the way I would have had it from this perspective. Would it have been more scuffed?
yeah,
Yes. But like, would we have learned more quickly? Yes.
yeah.
Like, I don't think that ultimately we did that the first show was bad at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, most of it, like you said, was technical difficulties. So I think really we only just would have had a earlier start.
Yeah,
And
because
that's
then
about it.
because then we didn't have, so that was in 2019, 2020. Then we came back to Anime Milwaukee in 22, but we didn't record that one. Mm-hmm. And then after that, we're like, hey, we should record these, and that's when we started doing Fan Expo. That was Fan Expo's first year.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
that-
which that was pretty rad.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. That kind of blew me away doing Chicago for the first time.
Yeah, and I do want to let anyone know who is interested in doing panels or anything like this.
Just do
Yeah,
it.
I mean, also just do it. But also like
Just
this isn't.
it.
We've seen like a lot of YouTubers that are just like, I just got lucky one day and that's how I got my big break. Kind of, but like also not for us. Like,
No, yeah,
we spent those 2 years like working on this and figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, because we have a team of total 8 of us, it has also helped us come up with new ideas. Nicole came up with the sign to wear, and that was
Yeah. Shout out to
groundbreaking.
Nicole.
And
Matthew just laughing.
but like, I mean, we're in 24. This started in 2020. We're 4 or 5 years into this now.
Yeah.
And
God, we're old.
yeah.
no,
like-
no.
And we're just
yet.
we're just like, this year was really the year that
That we're
really
popping
started to
off,
see
yeah.
any like big impact. And so like, it's taken us 5 years to get here, and it's crazy because it's felt like it's gone by in a flash.
It really has.
And I mean, yeah. So then we did Fan Expo
Yeah,
for the first time.
The months we were off, I don't even remember.
right?
Oh yeah, God no. Like
Months.
2020 was like a hazy fever dream.
So then we get to 2022. We did Anime Milwaukee. Couldn't tell you
Right.
about it, especially because we didn't record it. Then we get to Fan Expo Chicago. We only applied for one show.
We got 2.
For Friday.
Yep.
Friday did amazing.
Yep.
And we're like, I'm gonna message the person and
They're
I'll be like,
like,
can I get a Saturday show? And they're like, we got one show in the main room. You get 45 minutes. And we're like, we'll take it. So now we're in the biggest fucking room at the convention.
this was
We
a
filled
wild
maybe
thing
like
that
a
happened.
quarter of it.
Yeah, maybe.
But still, it
But
was
it's still a couple- like
massive
100
room.
Yeah,
people.
we filled about maybe a third even. Like there was a lot of people in that room.
Yeah.
A
and,
lot.
and then looking back though, and it's like they had like actual camera people, and now I'm seeing my face on the screens
Yeah,
on
that
the
was so
side.
cool.
That was so surreal.
So
and they were
cool.
following me, and I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, that was.
Oh,
the,
you're
that
following
was the,
me.
That was
Oh,
the
I didn't-
biggest
Wasn't
stage
like
that we
half
ever
of them
got.
though were just waiting for the next panel.
Some
and
of them
expecting
were.
someone to be there.
Some of them were.
But they still enjoyed the show in the
Oh
meantime.
yeah, for sure.
But
and then it
here's the
came
thing.
into the reverse like next year,
It's like
wasn't it?
the NFL halftime show, except
Yeah,
we were more
basically.
entertaining than the real show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually the funny
Which
part
is
about
why-
that is our audience our
Give it a minute.
audience number was actually bigger than the main event after the fact.
Yeah, because that was Sons of
Cat
Anarchy,
fuck.
right?
Yeah, it was Sons of Anarchy, which was crazy to think about. Like, so many people
Not
just
really.
got
Sons
up
of
and
Anarchy
went.
was kind of.
And the fact that we had a good turnout for doing it last minute, it was just barely put into the program.
Yeah.
And it was at a weird time too. Mm-hmm. And it turned out great.
Yeah, it did. And then
Well, the same thing with C2E2. Like they had us at like the very end of the day on Sunday, but we still filled the room.
We filled the room, and then it was that was another fire hazard.
Yeah.
See, well, what Anthony didn't
Fire marshals
mention
love us.
is the year prior to that we did Anime Magic.
Yes, I forgot about
And,
Anime Magic.
and they
Oh god.
that
Anime
was
Magic.
actually what year was that? That had to have been like,
one of the
21?
first years for them.
No.
that might
It had
have
to be
that might have
2020.
been 21.
One.
I think it was.
Yeah.
That was like the first convention to ever go after the pandemic, because I think we had to wear masks at the convention.
Yes.
so.
It was also one of the first.
It was like their first
first,
convention
yeah.
too.
It was
And
also just
Well, I don't think it was
rough.
it was like their first or second year ever having the convention because it was in a hotel.
It was the first year.
Right.
It was very rough of a convention. It was very small.
Yeah.
The turnout was weird, and then like we didn't usually like if we do a convention we get the panel, we get like the badges at least to go to it. They gave us $15.
Rough.
Yeah.
They also our show
Not $15 each.
Yeah,
$15.
$15
total.
Yeah.
Which didn't cover like
Even
a third,
parking.
like even a fourth of the badge. It didn't cover parking.
And then the worst part was our show was Saturday night at like midnight.
Yeah,
that,
that's super
so
late.
that wasn't the worst because there was stuff going until like 2 and 3 in the morning.
But
Yeah,
it was
which
in like
also
a
unique.
It
it
was a
wasn't
weird
an
room.
off room
But the
that was
wo-
underneath the escalators.
But the worst
And
part,
they didn't.
It was so
post-
far removed from everything.
it was in the calendar. It got cut off on the Saturday
Yes,
calendar. So if you were
correct.
there
Oh my
for
God,
Saturday,
yeah.
you didn't see it.
Nope.
But if you were there for only Saturday,
you saw it.
you didn't see it because it then showed up on the Sunday calendar instead.
Yes.
Wild.
So if you were only there for Saturday, you're not grabbing the Sunday calendar.
Correct.
So you're not seeing it at all.
Well, and then the poster, like we there was no
Yeah.
signage.
No, we had
at
to
all.
write on a piece of paper and put it on a
and
sign.
put it on
Yeah.
a sign.
Yeah, it's
It-
a miracle we even got like what 30 to 40 people
Yeah.
or something like that.
A literal miracle that happened. Like
I don't know how.
the
But I
more
don't
we
know
talk
how.
about, I feel like there was only like 10 people in that
Mercers.
room. But
Nah.
thinking back to it, I'm like, no, we had at least the 4 people that came up to audition for every position, and there were 4 different people each.
it-
And then on top of that, we had more people.
Yeah,
So
it was
going
like 20,
going back, it
I
was like 30, 40. I think it was 41 people.
to,
Yeah,
to
it was
give
not
you,
more than 50.
to basically
No,
describe what
God,
this room
no.
looked like. Imagine like a smaller version of a college.
It was a
lecture
college
hall.
lecture room.
It
Yeah,
was
it was
a
like
college
half filled.
lecture room.
Yeah, and we filled
it
like
was
half
like
of it.
sunken
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
It was really weird. But yeah, we had it like
Yeah, it
half
was like an
full.
atrium.
Yeah, it's like,
That was-
It feels like a fever dream thinking back to it. It was probably the worst show
We've ever done.
We've ever
Just
done.
because it was so like
Just-
unsupported.
and here's the part that kind of stings about that. Anime Magic has consistently asked for us to come back
correct.
and to do a show again.
Right.
And they're still small. I know for people that went to it this year, and they're like, it's still a really small show. It's like just a day con that you
Yeah.
go to. You don't go for the whole weekend.
So
Right.
so they've consistently asked for us to come back and do a show, even though that was like our smallest ever show.
Correct.
And
But it
I'm
had
like,
an impact.
and but it had that good of an impact to the point that there's people that will go to those, and they basically pretend to be us.
That's fucking wild.
We've
No
had
one can
people.
replicate this.
Yeah, we
from-
had people that be
We've
like,
had
you guys
people.
are at Anime
you
Magic.
Anime Magic.
Like,
Fuck no.
no.
And they're like, oh, really? I'm like, I guarantee we do it better.
Yeah.
And they're like, you weren't kidding. You do it a lot better.
Yeah.
Like, your show is a lot better. And I'm like, yeah. So the whole thing about that is that, like, I don't know who does it or who's, like, trying to do it as us or whatever. But, like, they're
If
not.
you're out there, post in the comments.
Yeah. But no, it's just not.
Dox yourself.
Time and place.
Here's the thing.
Oh God.
Here's the thing. For
Square
Anime Magic to get us to go, because I know if we do, like 30 people are gonna go just to see us, because it's also a smaller convention. It's
Correct.
cheaper,
Right.
and they're like, hell yeah. So I know that that's gonna happen because it's much easier of a thing to do. If we were to go, they would have to pay us to go. Period.
Same-
Because
Well, yeah,
I-
because we got to go out of our way to do
Well,
it. It's not a
Because
show.
that would be one we would just go
And-
for the day.
We
Yeah.
would just go for the
and we would
day.
just go for the day, and this is only because they've burned us so badly. We've done it for every other convention No other convention has ever burned us as badly as they have in terms of doing the show, having performance, having our stuff put on boards, having compensation for doing said show. No other show. Not even when we were small.
Even C2E2, like, they gave us a small room, but that's because they didn't really know who we were.
Yeah, but they also gave us at least badges.
Yeah, they gave us badges, and
which was fine.
We were on the sign.
Yes, we were on the sign, so it balanced out.
And C2E2 loved us.
Yes.
They loved us. That show went really well.
So one thing, though, I do want to bring up about the first Anime Magic that is important, because there were 2 highlights from it. Jared just said it to me, is that we got our first haters, because that was when people came up and had too serious of answers.
Yep.
And
which is what led to
+2 great sword.
Which is
what led to Anthony stating that
basically dunking on me.
Yeah, basically stating that in the future, don't give serious answers. That's not what this is for.
Because then after that, I think we were going to Fan Expo, and I posted in the Fan Expo group. I was like, "Hey, we're this group. We're doing Improv D&D. Come check us out." And they responded to it, being like, "Hey, were you guys at Anime Magic?" I was like, "Oh yeah. If you were there, that's great. We'd love to see you again." They're like, "No, we didn't like your show. Just because we didn't fit in with everyone." And I remembered because they were dressed up as Matt Mercer, Marisha Ray.
Yeah.
And they gave serious answers. And even when I was auditioning them, I was like, all right.
I don't know where to go from
that. But then the second impact from Anime Magic, which still impacts us to this day, our fucking knight in shining armor.
Oh
yes.
My Lord.
The Arabian Night.
That was the first show that the Arabian Night.
Yeah.
So we got, not only did we get our first dedicated hater, we also got our first dedicated fan.
Yeah.
And hardcore fan.
And he has been to
every single, at least 18+ show. If he's at that convention, he is there.
Shout out to the Arabian Night. He makes some sick stuff on his Instagram.
And the fact too that when he came up and he was we were auditioning, then I think he got the villain.
Yes.
I think he wanted the fighter at first, but then he realized there was a villain, so then he stepped back. Because I know a Ranger Bard took the fighter.
Yes, it was. I think they were related.
I even if they're not. But then he took on, and everyone, he's in the armor. Everyone was going to cheer for him. We didn't know who he was, and he was great. He had a great time. And now, anytime we see him at conventions, we just have full conversations, and it's just continuing where we left off. And it's like, hey man, I was wondering if I was going to see you here, but I'm also not surprised. I heard you and your armor clinking from
halfway down the convention.
You failed the stealth roll.
Yeah.
But yeah, so...
And he's always so friendly, the nicest guy, too. And that's why if you've come to our 18+ shows specifically, I'll always at least bring him up, because he's been there, ignoring the first Anime Milwaukee one, he's been there since day one.
Yeah.
And he's been dedicated.
Yeah.
And so I'll be like, I'll at least give you an audition. Mm-hmm. I can't promise that you'll make it on stage, but I'll give it to you. And when he comes up there, he kills it. Mm-hmm. He knows how to work the crowd. Sometimes he goes a little too much, and he takes it away a bit, but it only helps the performance, and it only helps people have, we said at the beginning, how we started this podcast, everyone has a good time because of it. And he definitely is a part of that. He knows how to do it. He knows how to work with us, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very true.
Quick, just to go through the rest of the history of Improv D&D. We did Fan Expo. We got that second show. Mm-hmm. It went great. Anime Milwaukee. 2023 now.
3.
That one, we got a bigger room.
Yes.
I don't remember. I just have the titles for the videos, just Anime Milwaukee 23. I started giving them actual titles in 24.
That's another thing we learned from.
The descriptions might have something, but I'm not going to click into them.
Right.
But this time we got 2 panels, and they were both 18+. A lot more structure, a lot more ideas into them. Actually, I am going to click into this one because I think this is when the knight comes in and he does the splits to get his role.
It doesn't show up on the camera very well because some
Someone
lady decides to stand up, crouch down right in front of the camera to get her own video on her phone.
It might be the Saturday show. I'll know by the camera angle.
I remember that moment specifically.
Yep,
because I was so angry about it.
Because you made an enemy that day.
Yes.
Clicked right.
Yeah,
on-
he
on
clicked
the-
right to the splits. That's wild.
Yeah, see, there she is.
Yeah.
She fucking gets right in the way, and I can't see it.
And he gets down and he does the splits, and then he
Oh
starts
my
humping the
God.
floor,
I saw.
and the crowd goes crazy.
I thought he was doing push-ups, but that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Wild.
So again, another great show. That was also we made an ad for that too. For you should come.
Oh, I remember that.
Oh yeah.
Never watched it.
Then we went
I
to
watched it like 6 times. So.
I never. It still comes up in my YouTube Shorts feed sometimes.
really.
And
It's
I still
like,
don't
watch
watch
it.
No, I still don't watch
You're
it.
in it.
No,
Watch it.
That's why I don't watch it.
So then 23, we go back to Fan Expo Chicago. And then we're like, all right,
just mute.
now we planned, we're going to do 2 days.
No.
And those were some of the 2 best shows we've done too, especially for Fan Expo. We
Fan
had-
Expo 2023 is actually like, first off, Fan Expo 2022 super huge for us because that's where
Just like we got our foot in the door and made a big break.
yeah, well, and
Yeah.
that's also where like our crowd resonated the entire convention.
Yeah, we
and
were
that's where
fucking
like
loud.
the CEOs learned our names.
Yeah, no.
And then after that, in
23.
23, we brought the same, lightning and thunder to
Jonathan
our
and the
show.
Jonathans and the Toe Queen with the Toconuts.
Yep. And
The enemy of the foot.
Mouth. The guy who was in charge of like the anime aspect was there.
yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
And
was
he heard
there.
everything and watched it.
So
all.
because the executives, like their room was like kind of off, like behind some double doors, but it was next to our room.
They could hear us.
So we're
They were
cheering,
like,
we're crazy.
what is going on?
Because
What
then
is
we
that
went
show over there?
Because then we went to the panel where you get to talk to the executives. Again, this
Yeah.
is in 23.
Yeah, and they told us this.
and they were
this
like,
themselves.
yeah. So this isn't us just making this up. They were like, we know about your show. We heard your show, and we were wondering, like, we wanted to go to it. And then, fucking Doc Brown and Marty McFly are having a photo shoot behind
Yeah.
us, and
And-
they're like, we want to be in there.
Yeah, so they were like, wow, I want to be over to whatever the hell that was.
that sounds way better than what we're doing here.
Yeah, and
It's because
and-
sorry,
someone
little Johnny.
that took the photo with them on Friday then found out it was us and came and told us that on Saturday.
Yeah, and then I had staff members saying like, yeah, they were talking about you guys because of all the noise you were making and how much they wanted to be a part of that. And I thought that was so wild.
Yeah,
I'm like,
right. No
the
kidding.
fact that we've had multiple people come up and they were talking about the show that they couldn't be a part of was wild.
Freaking Michael J. Fox of all people was just like, I want to be on that
Yeah.
side. Of the ball.
Even if it's just just a
look-see.
little comment, or I mean, it's just like, hey, I'd like to, I'll have what she's having, like something like that. Even if it's like that, that's still a huge compliment.
Huge compliment.
So again, I think so. Then Fan Expo 23 is even when we started the Patreon,
Right.
getting Patreons, it started really building a fan base around it. Mm-hmm. Then we go back to 24 now, the beginning of the year. This is, probably early February where I think it happened. No, 24. This was still March.
It was
It
March.
was March. Yeah.
Because they started changing
Yep.
it.
They changed it for this year.
Good on you, anime.
We have now the Enter the Sex Dungeon. This is where I started adding titles now. Enter the Sex Dungeon, where the crowd was crazy, but they loved it so much.
they were
I think
very
like if
into
something
it.
like that happens again, you got to tag me in. You got to accept the L and throw me in, because also they will not expect that.
Just do the Donkey Kong tag in.
Yeah.
With like the double hand clap.
And then because Friday show was a smaller room, Saturday show was a double the room, and then we went way over. If that room could fill 250 people, we were at like 325 or something like that.
Pretty much, yeah.
Again, another fire hazard. Insane.
I'm surprised the fire marshals haven't knocked
This
down
is
our
also
door.
when we started filling up our room every
Yeah, so
single time.
starting in 2024,
It's
the
fun.
beginning with Anime Milwaukee. Actually,
Yep.
it technically started back with Fan Expo in 23.
Fan Expo
Every
in
single
23.
room for
After
a year,
that, we filled completely.
100% complete. Both Friday. Oh, and then this is also now Anime Milwaukee invited us to be a part of the opening ceremonies.
Yep.
And now I'm in discussion with them to having us just MC programs and host programs.
Help them host the
Because they enjoyed
opening
us
ceremony.
just MCing and just being a part of it. Also, then just being committed to Anime Milwaukee for years.
Also, to be fair, we were way more to the point with our stuff and
Yeah.
less
Exactly.
about
Should
ourselves.
start paying us.
Honestly,
Give us money. I'm
at
kidding.
least get us a hotel room,
Oh,
something.
nice.
All right,
Well,
now
that would help.
Now this is the first we've branched out. We threw shit at the fan and everything is sticking, and now we're committing to it.
Rough. Thanks, Michael.
I mean,
You're welcome.
I mean, it's mixed.
March
can I
Anime
say?
Milwaukee. Next month,
Go fuck
April,
yourself.
C2E2. Go to C2E2. We're bummed. It's the last show of Sunday.
Sunday.
We're like, no
Rough.
one's gonna show up.
Nobody's gonna show up.
Everyone showed
Filled
up.
the room.
They had to put a sign out front to stop people from coming in. We had our luckily though we had our Patreons make shirts for us to promote. They were promoting it. They had handouts. It was crazy.
We had the sign.
Also, our friends, Level 21, that's Mel and her group of friends.
Mm-hmm.
They were there. They were also supporting us and all of that. Amazing. That again, now we had even more support behind it.
It was
crazy.
It was honestly heartwarming, like going to their panel.
Yeah, we didn't even know they were going to be there.
No,
really.
and we
didn't know they were going to host a panel.
we came in and they're just like, Quest Bros, hi, and I'm just like,
Oh,
oh.
it's you guys. We saw you at Fan Expo. Again, amazing.
They fucking like called us by like our actual names, and I'm like, oh shit, they know us. This feels weird.
April. That's April. Now we get into May. Anime Central. Anime. So C2E2 only gave us one show, and I was like, fuck, sure, that's our first time there.
Yeah,
I get it.
we made a good impression.
Yeah, we made a good impression. We even made a video like showing all the stats and like had people like posting and tagging them, being like, bring Quest Bros back,
Wild.
give them a better room,
Wild.
better time, everything.
Wild.
Now we get to Anime Central. They give us both shows. They give us a Friday and a Saturday, and it's 18+. C2E2 was a family-friendly show. Still fine, though.
Yes.
I don't mind the family friendly
The C2E2
No, I
one,
think
the
so.
name for those interested is Indiana's Animal Hospital Freezer.
Oh yeah, that one.
Yep. That's yep.
Yep.
So now we get
to
to Friday Anime Central. We're back in Rosemont, a venue we're very familiar with, but a new convention. So we're not sure how it's going to do. But as we just said, anime conventions go feral for us.
Yeah.
That's a fun way
The
of
Salty
putting it.
Splatoon Magic School Bus in that guy's ass was great. That was the name of the episode. It was a weird location, a weird thing, but the room was filled. Everyone had a great time.
Basically, Dan just couldn't choose because they all sounded like they were going to be hilarious. So he's just like, fuck it, we'll do all.
Mix them all together.
Yeah. The
All
one
of
thing
them.
that got me was like everyone started quieting down. I was gonna stick with the Magic School Bus and the Salty Splatoon, and then one dude's like, "In that guy's ass," and everyone lost their mind. They were like, "Yes, yes, yes," and the party's like, "No," and I was like, the second the party was like, "No," and the crowd was
Oh.
like, "Yes," I was like, "You're in that dude's ass!" Immediately.
So now that show went so well. Luckily, Saturday we have a room double the size.
Filled
And
it.
we fill it without even a question. There was no like, are we gonna fill it?
We had to
There was
turn away
lines.
like a ton of people.
I think
like
like
40
between
people.
yeah, like between 30 and 60 people we had to turn away. This is then after this is when we started keeping count.
Yep. That's
This
part
is
of the
that-
reason why we started keeping count, because
Take
we
the
had
clicker
to
and
start
just start
turning.
spamming it.
We had to start turning so many.
It was a
people
ludicrous
away.
amount of people that we've had to turn away at some of our shows.
And then this is when we get to the magic number 7. This was our 7th show that we filled out completely.
And we had 7 people on.
We
it.
had 7 people come up on stage, and
people
anytime
kept
people were
rolling
rolling
sevens.
they kept rolling for 7s. When we had
That
to
was
do the
the new Nat 20.
tiebreakers, they kept rolling 7s.
New Nat 20.
And then
I still get pressured into making a Nat 7 like automatically succeed to this day because of that.
yes, and again, the room was massive. The crowd was engaged, and it was so contagious, and it warms my heart even to this day. Like I can only smile when I think about that show.
How could people ever think I forget some of these shows when they never let me?
When it's 7 minutes in Femboy Hooters.
For Jonathan.
Jonathan,
Then we get
no.
to
Of course that
so
table
wrapping it
had a
up. We get to
whole
Gen Con. We talked
backstory.
about Gen Con. We had Revenge in the Dwarfenage. Again, that was a weird ass situation.
We don't talk about the dwarfenage.
But again, we're so surprised that Gen Con accepted us for 2 shows, 18+, the full time we wanted, on the days and times we wanted, like 7, 8 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And then we also got paid for it. In theory, we lost money because we didn't go to work and then we had to drive. But in total, the hotel only cost us $60.
Yeah, $20 each.
Yeah.
next time we just take a ferry through Lake Michigan.
And I was like, to travel to Indiana for 3 days, because they also gave us the tickets.
Yeah, they gave us the tickets.
To travel to Indiana for 3 days, technically we could have done it for 4 days.
Car. On the ferry.
Stop.
Sorry.
To travel to Indiana for 3 to 4 days for the hotel and only have to pay $60. That's not that bad.
No.
And then again, we got
Plus
to,
gas.
and then we also we got a panel with Robin's Nerd Supplies and Kelsey. They had us be a part of something with them.
Yeah,
Met more people. We got to network. It was a great time, great experience.
And it also opened my eyes to like how much more comfortable we are being like business people.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because like so many people are in there and they're talking and stuff, and we were just so nonchalant about the whole thing, and they are so intimidated by like everything. They're like, this sounds like a lot, and I'm like, it is, but it's not like that. It's not like it's
and maybe it is easier for us because there, at least like here, there's 5 of us.
Yeah.
And if you are one person, yeah, it is a lot.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
But yeah.
I mean, I get talking to people being a lot for some, but at the end of the day, it's like it's not.
It's a matter of experience and perspective, and kind of like when you get a bit of both of those, it gets a heck of a lot easier.
Well, and part of the thing is when I talk to people, I get the general understanding. Like, I can see that they're like engaged in the conversation. They're enjoying the conversation. Yeah. There was that one guy at Gen Con where I was trying to pitch to him, and I was like, you fucked me, dude. I'm like,
I don't know why he did that to you. He didn't. He was just a normal dude.
Yeah,
You fucked me.
And I don't know. He just like he totally shot me down. Not like he didn't shoot us down, and he was like, okay.
I thought he was open. He was very nice and like genuinely curious.
I don't know. It was like I looked into his like it was like Dragon Ball Z moment. I looked into his aura and he like paralyzed me, and I was like, what the fuck happened? I walked away and I was like, fuck that. And I was so mad that I still to this day think about how that guy, for whatever reason, just totally took my tongue away. Like, cut it out of my mouth. I could not speak.
I'm glad I was there because I had to step in and
I was
because he asked you a question and you completely ignored the question
and
I had to come in and I was like, here's the answer to your question.
And here's the thing, he asked the question, I completely ignored it, and then I just repeated the last thing I said like a fucking AI robot who forgot the rest of their tasks. The dude screwed me. I don't know how else to put that. Like, it's like he took my tongue and cut it out of my mouth. I was like, "What the hell?"
We both know.
So then we get
going to say robot.
we get to Saturday, and that's the story of Saturday Gen Con is actually one of the only ones that I have gone back to and listened to again because I enjoyed the story that much. That was the Teal Banana and the Crimson Dragon.
Oh yeah. People kept nitpicking about like the specificity.
Oh my god!
And it's got one of the higher views too from the year.
Yeah,
really.
And then we get to just a couple months ago, Fan Expo Chicago.
Woo! My personal favorite, just because of how well they treat us.
Yeah, Fan Expo treats us very well, and we're hoping to do even more with them in the future. We were going to try and do another convention this year, but then the convention just was canceled, so we're done for the year.
R.I.P.
Our last yearly convention was canceled, and the other ones coming up in November have ghosted a lot of people.
Yeah, we didn't apply to it either.
We also don't know if they're gonna. Yeah, some of those are kind of odd. Some of them reach out to us, and then
we have kind of next year already planned out, and I think we're good with where we're at for next year.
For the ones we're tentative of that are in state, we could definitely like go for one day and scope
and that's kind of what it would be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean we could that would be the only circumstance I could see us going to any other conventions, but I think to some degree the incentives aren't quite as much there unless they're particularly large conventions.
Right.
No, and like
which they're generally not that time of year anyway.
And like that's why I checked out that Madison Comic Con because it was $20 to go and $8 to park, and I parked right in front of the convention center. It was amazing. But I wouldn't do it because they didn't have fan panels.
Yeah, well, and that's part of the thing is like I guess now it's actually getting to the point where we should probably scout out the conventions we go to now.
Yeah. Gen Con was a very rare situation.
We kind of did that preparing for this year.
We sort of did that.
We took
people's suggestions.
Yeah.
So like the guy that hosts WasabiCon, the anime portion, he suggested we go to Gen Con and we get our foot in the door and we make a name for ourselves, which we definitely did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was very scary to do because it was a convention in another state we've never experienced, and it's the biggest TTRPG convention in the world.
Yeah, just a different scene, and everyone that was there was very more business oriented, which I didn't mind per se, but it was different.
But that's
the
history.
That's our history and our adventure this far.
If you guys want us
ending.
It's not ending.
No, this is,
Are you kidding me? We're just getting started.
This is just the beginning.
If you guys want us to do any more conventions outside of what we normally do, post in the comments. Like,
let us know.
We read these.
Yeah, we honestly, everyone but Matt.
Yeah.
Well, Matt doesn't watch our stuff.
Neither does Dan.
I try.
And also, like, if you guys have questions for us and you ever want us to have something to talk about on the podcast, let us know too. I know this was a longer one, so hopefully you all stayed to it to the end. This was one of the most structured ones too, and I think that's why it went longer. Is we had
we took some time to take some introspection.
I mean, but the Improv D&D has been a journey, and it's not something we can explain and talk about in 30 minutes.
And nope.
So that's why we had to take 2 hours to talk about it.
Yeah. So thank you all for watching, or in this case, listening to the history of improv and our journey this far.
Yes. Thank you to all of our supporters, all of our Patreons, and of course our sponsor, Robbins Nerd Supplies. Use code Quest Bros to get 10% off at checkout at robbinsnerdsupplies.com.
Off of anything.
And
Including newsletters.
And also, if you are interested in supporting the Quest Bros, you can join our Patreon. We have a $1, $2, and $3 tier. That's as cheap as we can really make it.
Yeah.
And there are different things for different levels. So support us any way you can. And if you can't financially, just like our videos, comment on them, share them, and just be a part of the community. That's
honestly, just watching and sharing, it does so much. And I know every creator says that, but it really does. I mean, like,
it might be nothing to you, but it's everything to us.
It is everything. Because, I mean, it's completely just changed our perspective on our shows and everything we've done so far. So thank you.
Thank you all for listening and being a part of the quest. And we will catch you.
You want to say thank you?
Man, you've grilled him 3 times tonight.
Matthew.
3 times.
Matthew.
Leave the poor man alone.
Thank you. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Follow our social medias. We've got merch. We've got shirts. Put them on your torso.
Thank you, everyone, for being a part of the adventure and being a part of the quest. And we will catch you next time.
Bye-bye.